Everyone, we are the Cal Poly branch of Hensel Phelps, and we are here to present on the Lours Marriott Hotel. I'm Will Leonard, I'm the project manager.
I'm Harrison Weigel, I'm the project engineer.
I'm Mikey Foley, I'm the project superintendent.
I'm Matt Gaby, I'm the safety manager.
I'm Brittany Laurel, I'm the scheduler.
I'm Brendan Donovan, and I'm the estimator.
So a little background on the Lours Marriott. This is a 24 dual flag Marriott hotel, which means that both the Courtyard Marriott and the Residence Inn on the top share the same amenities on the lower 5 floors. So this hotel is 240,000 square feet and has 320 rooms. Originally, this project was a design bid build project that we bid for. However, we were not the lowest bid, so the owner went with a different general contractor. However, the other general contractor and the owner were not able to meet contract terms, so they have reached out to us asking us to honor our original bid. So now with that, I want to give it over to Harrison to talk about the quality.
Thanks, Will. So yeah, the biggest area of concern that we came across while evaluating this project was that the owner asked us to keep the existing MEPF subcontractors that were working on the project before we were asked to come back. The area of concern with this is that Hensel Phelps has never done work with these subcontractors, so we're not comfortable in knowing the quality of the work that they will perform. We were also not present for the purchasing meetings, so we are unsure if the entire scope of work is included in their bid. So it's really important to us that we sit them back down and redo this purchasing meeting so we can ensure a complete scope of work and that they know what exactly is expected of them throughout the process. We also came across while looking through the contract documents that there's a lot of overlap between the subcontractor scopes. So it's going to be crucial to sit them down in weekly subcontractor coordination meetings so that if they have a big ticket item that week that they need another subcontractor to perform on ahead of time, that subcontractor is aware that needs to be done this week so the project flows smoothly. Another issue going forward with this project is that 20 stories of it are post-tension slab, which is really hectic and dense with the PT cables alongside MEP blockouts and sleeves. So we're actually recommending that we use a quality BIM model to ensure that the subcontractors know exactly where they should place their MEP blockouts and sleeves to avoid any of the post-tension cable. To ensure that that's done, we're going to have an office engineer keeping up the quality of that BIM model throughout the process, so it's always up to date and they know exactly where to place their MEP. We'll also have in the field a field engineer who will do final inspections before pouring the slabs to ensure that there has to be no rework before tensioning those cables. And now I'm going to pass it on to Mikey for the site utilization.
Thank you, Harrison. So when it came to planning out our site utilization for this project, one of the biggest concerns that we had to take into account was the fact that we are working in such a small building area. So that played into a lot of things that we had to deal with. So starting off, here is a site plan of what we are to be working with. As you can see here in gray, this is the footprint of our building in which we will be building. Around is the orange temporary fencing, which will be there throughout the duration of the project, and inside there will be all of our operable construction. Moving forward, we've also planned to have Hensel Phelps inside of the temporary office building right here. We did this because the developer who owns this building and who is procuring it is also the same owner who owns this entire city block. So we've used that to our advantage, being that we do have such a small footprint. We want to take advantage of surrounding sites. So HP will be temporarily located within here, as well as to the adjacent, this is an existing parking structure. We plan to utilize the top 2 levels of this parking structure. Green will be designated for Hensel Phelps employees, and blue will be designated for all subcontractor employees. Moving forward, with such little space, we plan to keep our subcontractors in the ground level of our construction. Once we have the initial slab in place and before interior build-out begins, we plan to designate a specific area here for our subcontractors to perform any office work necessary. Also in the southwest corner, we've designated an emergency meetup area for me as a superintendent to relay onto all of the foremen that in the case of any emergency, this will be the designated spot for everybody within the site to meet. Also, we've incorporated straw wattles around the entire perimeter of the project, as well as rumble grids, both in order to mitigate soil leaking off or draining off onto the surrounding areas. So moving forward, planning laydown and other equipment usage within this site is going to be a huge risk for us. So us coming on as a new general contractor, we want to set the tone for our subs. So with that, we plan to have weekly coordination meetings with our subcontractors in which we plan out exactly who's going to be where at what time throughout the entire week. So as you can see here in blue, these are specified laydown areas, and on a week-by-week basis, they will change as to who will be laying down materials there or prefabricating materials. Also, we plan to utilize the interior of the building. Also, once the slab has been poured and before interior build-out has begun, if certain subcontractors require a designated area that simply can't suffice with our ground layout, then we have planned to move them into certain levels that will be appropriate. As you can see up here in red, this is going to be our crane staging area, and down on the south, this is going to be our material hoist staging area, which I will go into further detail later. Here's also going to be our station crane and our man hoist. So moving forward, this is a 3D representation of the building that we're going to be working with. As you can see, we have our tower crane on the north side of the project and our material lift on the south side of the project. As well as throughout this construction, we plan to have 2 lanes closed, one of which being the westbound lane on Madison Street and the other being the northbound lane on South Central. So here's a zoomed in view of how we plan to stage our concrete deliveries. Being that this is a building made up primarily of structural concrete, it's imperative that we have a strong plan in place so that our deliveries can come in on time and move in and out efficiently. So I want to make one note here. I have my concrete trucks coming in from the south, but I'd like to make a correction. Our concrete trucks will actually be coming from the south to the north along the same route, however. So we plan to have concrete trucks come in through this intersection here and move up through here to where you can see the red. This is going to be our concrete purging and washout area. And then once concrete trucks are done, they will drive over rumble grids and then back out onto South Central Avenue in one clean go. Moving forward into our man hoist area, material hoist area, excuse me. We plan to have material deliveries come in on West Madison Street, come in through our southwest entrance, and then we plan for our subs to have ample space for laydown area as well as staging for them to unload material, for it to then be picked up and transported and then assembled within the building. And again, we've scheduled for these subs to have one clean pass, so there's no need to turn around on our job site, which is already very tight space. So it's imperative that we take all of this into account. We want to schedule deliveries the day of, if possible. We want to minimize the amount of laydown area for other subs, simply so that we can have the most efficient building site as possible. So thank you guys. I want to pass it on to our safety coordinator, Matt.
Thanks, Mikey. Safety is our #1 value. Main safety topics that we're going to be talking about are increased traffic, fall protection, and heat prevention. Given that this job site is in a metropolitan area and is near 2 major sports complexes, there's going to be an increased amount of street and sidewalk traffic. One way that we're going to mitigate this is we're going to have flaggers and require our subcontractors to use extra flaggers on our delivery days. Given that this project is a high-rise, there's going to be an increased risk in fall accidents. We will have an office engineer come out and conduct bi-weekly safety audits to ensure that all of our workers are working.
I think last night you were talking about how they were going to be working and practicing safe practices when they know that they're going to be watched. And then that also introduces the office with the field.
Correct. We'll have an office engineer come out, and this will connect the Hensel Phelps office with the job site. We will also be having we also will be implementing a safety incentive plan to ensure or to reward workers when they're working productively and safely on the job site. Given that this job is in Arizona, and Arizona is known to have pretty extreme weather, this increases the risk of heat illnesses to our workers. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to have our safety engineer and myself watch these conditions to ensure that none of the workers are getting dehydrated or any other accidents are occurring. We will also be implementing our heat illness prevention plan to ensure the well-being of our workers and employees and everyone on site. Next, I'm going to move on to safety with Brittany.
Schedule, but all the same. All right, so before I dive into our build plan, I kind of want to touch on a couple key milestones for you guys. Granted that we need to follow up with this job, our notice to proceed date would be March 1st, 2018. From there, it's looking like our structure is going to be complete on July 23rd, 2019, with interior build-out falling fairly closely behind on September 5th, 2019. And if all of those go according to plan, we will hit our substantial completion date on December 20th, 2019, and that's actually about 6 days ahead of our required substantial completion date. So with that, we have our build plan. So as Will had mentioned earlier, we actually had there's a GC on the job beforehand, and he had excavated the entire basement for the job before he was removed. So we are going to start with our 6-foot mat slab down in the basement, and then work our structure all the way up to the mechanical penthouses, where we will have our steel structure for those areas. Additionally, we are going to sequence our interior build-out to kind of follow fairly close behind with the structure to ensure that we stay on schedule, because we are hitting a very tight schedule. Included in those interior build-out activities, we'll have our elevator and stairwell install, phasing up as we go up. And with that, we also have our exterior skin system. So we're going to start on the first floor, 1st through 4, get the curtain wall up, and then we're going to phase our panels to go around from west to north and floor by floor. And like I said earlier, if all of those go according to plan, we'll hit substantial completion, and then we'll have about a month after substantial completion to finish up any final commissioning activities and hit our final completion date of mid-January 2020. Now, in order to decide whether or not we want to pursue the project, we have to talk about a few risks. One of the first being that this is a very aggressive schedule. The owner wants us to stick with the original schedule duration that we submitted when we submitted the bid. So this means we have 23 months to get on site, get mobilized, and actually build the project. With that, we also, as Matt had mentioned earlier, are dealing with Arizona weather, which means we have some very hot days. This is not only a risk to our personnel, but also our building and concrete pours. So we are going to look into potentially having either early morning pours or nighttime pours to avoid pouring during those hot hours. Additionally, we are recovering lost time, like I mentioned beforehand, so we need to be efficient in working with these subcontractors that we don't entirely know, getting all those details worked out, getting mobilized, and the site made ready to start up construction and not lose any time. And last but not least, we do have a variety of owner-furnished contractor-installed items on this job. So that provides a somewhat of a coordination risk. And one of the best ways we can mitigate that is to be proactive with coordinating the owner and ensuring that those materials are procured, delivered, and installed on site in a timely manner. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Brendan for our estimate.
Thank you, Brittany. So as Hensel Phelps' project team, we were tasked to complete an estimate on all the structural concrete in the building. It starts out on the basement level and spans 21 stories. The basement has a mat slab in it, which is one of the big ticket items that I want to cover today. There's also shear walls and columns and beams that are really important to this estimate. We were given a number from the developer who after reviewing with our chief estimator, we noticed some scope gaps between our estimate and his estimate. So we felt it best that we decided to redo the estimate and come up with a confident number so we can make a proper decision as to whether we want to bid on this project or we want to proceed with this project. So to jump into slabs, the mat slab on the basement level is 6 feet thick. This slab makes up about 6% of the total project cost, or the total concrete on the project, which is an incredibly critical cost component. Then when you go to the ground level, all the way from the ground level all the way to the roof, there's 20 slabs, which have variations of both elevated slabs and recessed slabs, as well as mechanical blockouts and elevator penetrations that we needed to take into account when it came to formwork and labor costs, because it was very extensive. When it comes to shear walls, there's shear walls that span from the basement level all the way to the 20th level of the complex. These shear walls, being that the Marriott Hotel has various levels throughout the entire project, we decided we needed to assign a factor to each level of the hotel. So in taking on this estimate, let's say we're on a floor and it's 9 foot 8 inches high. To go about this, our team decided to divide that 9 foot 8 inches by the total height of the hotel to come up with a factor. Then from that, we got our total square footage of the shear walls and applied that factor to the shear walls with respect to the thickness of the shear walls. This, we felt, was a very efficient and accurate way to come up with a good number. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Will for project buyout.
Thanks, Brendan. So first, to talk about the staffing on the project. So for our Hensel Phelps staff, we will have a project manager who is in charge of the office in the project and a project superintendent who's in charge of the field. So underneath the project manager, there are 3 project engineers. And although that might seem like a lot, that's because the first project engineer is only there for 6 months. This is important on our project because we need an all-star project engineer who's in the area and ready to relocate, who can help come get the project started off so that we can deliver to our owner, the hotel, as soon as possible. Then the other 2 project engineers will take on the rest of the project and will focus on both the structure and the interiors. These 2 project engineers will have office engineers underneath them who are helping focus on the structure and the exterior, and then the interior and the MEPF specifically. In the field, underneath the project superintendent, we will have 2 area superintendents and 2 field engineers. The field engineers will support the area superintendents, and they will all focus on different scopes, including the structure, interior, MEPF, and the interior finishes. And now to move on to the financial status. So our original base bid was $51.0 million, and after our revised estimate, we came out with a bid of $51.4 million. So obviously, as you can see, there's a $445,000 variance, and our revised budget is over budget. So we calculated this budget using the same 1.5% contingency that we used in our original base bid. And we believe that although this is a fairly small contingency, it still allows Hensel Phelps all the ability to mitigate any risk that may come from our very compact schedule, as Brittany was talking about. We also calculated this project to have a 4.25% fee. We calculated this fee based on a return on investment per person per month that we're staffing the project. So while doing this, we actually allocated a fairly low amount and came out with the 4.25%. And we believe that this is the lowest that Hensel Phelps should go to have correct profit to cover overhead necessary for the project. And so we also understand that the Western Division is somewhat struggling with projects and has lots of available employees in the near future. So we understand that this project is a great opportunity to give these employees a place to work for the next 23 months. However, our official final suggestion is that Hensel Phelps should not perform this job unless 1, the owner is willing to take our slight price increase, or 2, it is absolutely crucial that Hensel Phelps needs this project to keep their employees staffed throughout these 23 months. And now with that, we'd like to go ahead and open it up to questions.
All right, perfect. Well, you can have a seat if you'd like. All right, well, good job getting all that done. I mean, we throw a lot at you and semi-abusive and